The Outline of Sanity by G.K. Chesterton. Narrated by Seth Trey. Chapter 1. Some General Ideas. Section 1. The Beginning of the Quarrel. I have been asked to republish these notes, which appeared in a weekly paper, is a rough sketch of certain aspects of the institution of private property, now so completely forgotten amid the journalistic jubilations over private enterprise. The very fact that the publicists say so much of the latter and so little of the former is a measure of the moral tone of the times. A pickpocket is obviously a champion of private enterprise, but it would perhaps be an exaggeration to say that a pickpocket is a champion of private property. The point about capitalism and commercialism is conducted of late is that they have really preached the extension of business rather than the preservation of belongings, and have at best tried to disguise the pickpocket with some of the virtues of the pirate. The point about communism is that it only reforms the pickpocket by forbidding pockets. Pockets, and positions generally, seem to me to have not only a more normal, but a more dignified defence than the rather dirty individualism that talks about private enterprise. In the hope that it may possibly help others to understand it, I have decided to reproduce these studies as they stand, hasty, and sometimes merely topical as they were. It is indeed very hard to reproduce them in this form, because they were editorial notes to a controversy largely conducted by others, but the general idea is at least present. In any case, private enterprise is no very noble way of stating the truth of one of the 10 Commandments, but there was at least a time when it was more or less true. The Manchester radicals preached a rather crude and cruel sort of competition, but at least they practiced what they preached. The newspapers, now praising private enterprise, are preaching the very opposite of anything that anybody dreams of practicing. The practical tendency of all trade and business today is toward big commercial combinations, often more imperial, more impersonal, more international than many a communist commonwealth, things that are at least collective, if not collectivist. It is all very well to repeat distractedly, "What are we coming to with all this Bolshevism?" It is equally relevant to add, what are we coming to even without Bolshevism? The obvious answer is monopoly. It is certainly not private enterprise. The American trust is not private enterprise. It would be truer to call the Spanish Inquisition private judgment. Monopoly is neither private nor enterprising. It exists to prevent private enterprise. In that system of trust or monopoly, that complete destruction of property would still be the present goal of all our progress if there were not a Bolshevist in the world. Now, I am one of those who believe that the cure for centralization is decentralization. It has been described as a paradox. There is apparently something elvish and fantastic about saying that when capital has come to be too much in the hand of the few, the right thing is to restore it into the hands of the many. The socialist would put it in the hands of even fewer people, but those people would be politicians who, as we know, always administer it in the interests of the many. But before I put before the reader things written in the very thick of the current controversy, I foresee it will be necessary to preface them with these few paragraphs, explaining a few of the terms, and amplifying a few of the assumptions. I was in the weekly paper arguing with people who knew the shorthand of this particular argument, but to be clearly understood, we must begin with a few definitions, or at least descriptions. I assure the reader that I use words in quite a definite sense, but it is possible that he may use them in a different sense, and a muddle and misunderstanding of that sort does not even rise to the dignity of a difference of opinion. For instance, capitalism is really a very unpleasant word. It is also a very unpleasant thing. Yet the thing I have in mind, when I say so, is quite definite and definable, only the name is a very unworkable word for it. But obviously we must have some word for it. When I say capitalism, I commonly mean something that may be stated thus: that economic condition in which there is a...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?